Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of IK NHL Daily Talk. My name is Iacob, and I'm finally here, joined after a few days of break. I had some stuff going on, so I had to take a break for a while, but I am officially back, and it's good to be back. And I'm here with my other host, Kyle, who's actually been taking all the videos for me while I've been gone dealing with some stuff. So, Kyle, say what's up.
Hey guys, and yeah, no, I've just been trying to, keep the content coming, and obviously I don't like to not upload for several days on end. So yeah, I'm happy that Jakob's here, and now I have someone to talk to rather than you guys just having to listen to my annoying voice over and over.
Yeah, it was definitely a few days. Like I mentioned, I moved to Panama City. I signed a contract. As I mentioned before, my plan A was, to come to Panama and get do a trial. And after one day of being on trial, I literally got signed. The next day, I got a contract. So I've been dealing with some stuff. Me and my roommate Matthew, which he's outside right now, I might get him to come in maybe at the end to give a hi. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, me and him, we're trying to get our apartment. We were supposed to tour it yesterday, but unfortunately we were all busy with work and stuff. So yeah, we just decided we would that they're gonna tour it, I think on Monday. We don't know yet, but I found a job, found everything here. So now I work at a race car track, and half the time I'm literally getting paid to sit around and be on my phone and watch TikTok and Instagram and that. So yeah, it's been fun, but now I'm ready to get back into podcasting. It's a little different today because there's not any news topics because we're doing this at a pretty early convenient time. I'm currently in Central Time right now. So it's currently 12:47 p.m. It's 11, almost 12 in Kyle, but yeah, there's no news. So what we're gonna do is, Kyle, would you like to introduce what we're gonna do instead of news topics?
Yes, absolutely. Damn, my throat. Oh my goodness gracious, it just died. I don't know what happened there, but anyways, yeah, so what we're going to do is, because obviously I covered all of the news yesterday in my episode that I did. Well, I guess it was like 10 hours ago now that I finished the episode, so that's pretty funny. But yeah, we're going to go over, a couple teams that Jakob and I think are very interesting. And if you look at the tabs at the top, you can see the spoilers, but obviously, and Jakob is going to talk about the Anaheim Ducks and how he feels about their season, what he thinks about their players, blah, 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 and whether he thinks they're going to make the playoffs or where they might place in the division. And then I will do the exact same with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then, of course, we'll go over your schedule, which we will do our recaps for yesterday. And we only had two games, so you will get a full day's recap for yesterday. And then we will go over your starting goaltenders for today's games. And then, of course, we'll do a well, not of course, but we will do a standings review because we're at that point of the year now. And then, of course, we will do our NHL picks of the day. And then got a couple things to shout out at the end of the episode, but you guys can wait for that. But Jakob, on that note, are you ready to get into this? And then we can save any conversation that we have for the end.
Yeah, I'm ready to get into this. And the reason I chose the Anaheim Ducks today, due to, I mean, obviously they play today, and obviously, they're the big division rivals of the Edmonton Oilers, our team. But I just want to give them credit because they are playing at a very phenomenal game right now.
Yeah.
They're top of the Pacific for a reason, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been showing. They've been playing solid hockey, and I've actually got the chance to watch them play, and I definitely will watch the game today when they play the Edmonton Oilers to see. But currently, they're standing at 86 points with first in the Pacific, like I mentioned. They've played 72 games and won 41, 27, and 4. And looking at, maybe their home record is definitely a lot better than their away record. I would say their last 10 games was 6-3-1, and they're on a currently on a 4-game winning streak. So, maybe, it's been good. Like, they've been winning games, and definitely they've been playing some pretty competitive teams. And yeah, they just have a really young team. Like, I'm pretty sure at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, Cutter Gauthier is a pretty young player, and he's number one currently on their list at 63 points with 36 goals and 27 assists. But then you go down the list where Leo Carlson, like we mentioned, he was a pretty good player, got injured, couldn't play in the World Olympics, but still he's only 2 points behind that. And then looking at this is an actual rookie. I believe he's like what 19 or something,
I
and
believe
he's
that's
currently
right.
sitting at 55 points. Um, like 21 goals and 34 assists. So not bad. And then we have, Troy Terry, who's pretty much like, an experienced player. He's played there for a while. He has 52. Then John Carlson, who they just added, has 52. Jackson Lacombe, a pretty young but solid defenseman, has 50. And Chris Kreider, a very experienced, I wouldn't say veteran just yet, but
He's
you know,
definitely a veteran, Jacob.
he's
Come on.
getting close to that point. He's getting close to that point eventually. And he's sitting at 46 right now. Mikael Granlund, who, joined the team, and I mean, he's not having the best. He's still having a pretty solid season, but maybe the points are not showing. But when you watch him play, he's a very phenomenal player. And then you have Mason McTavish, who again, he's like that. I believe that third line center, and he's putting in numbers. Played 65 games, had 34 points, and Jacob Trouba has 32. Ryan Poling has 31. Alex Killorn has 28. Then you see a bunch of defensemen at the bottom, and it's kind of doesn't come as a surprise. The defensemen, their job is to defend the goal. Their job is not to, if they put the puck, great. They put the puck down. But obviously, you guys can see all their stats. I'm not going to go over all their stats, but then we can look at their goalie performance, and the goalie performance has been solid. I wouldn't, despite what the numbers say, and oh my God, this guy allowed 9 goals against in one game. Holy! All right, we'll just ignore that fact. But Lukasz Dostal has been their primary goalie, and he's been a pretty solid goalie. Maybe his numbers are not showing as he's posting an 893 save percentage with a 301, but still, he's been pretty solid, and he was solid in the Olympics. I even told everybody that I thought he was taking PEDs because of how good he's been playing. But currently, his record is a 29 and 15 record, 29, 15, 3 record. So, he's a pretty good goalie. And then, backing him up is Vil Huso, who apparently can be very reliable because he has a better save percentage and but a worse goals against average than Lucas Dostal. But we've seen that when he comes on, when he is in relief or even when he starts, he can be a pretty solid goalie. And he's currently 9-7-1 so far in his career. And then we have Peter Mrazek, who he doesn't play much. He's probably in the AHL. Same with that Vyacheslevik Buteyets guy who's probably in the AHL. But aside from that, the Ducks have a pretty solid team, and now thinking about where they're gonna place, I think they're going to be top three in the Pacific. I don't think, considering everything that happened. Obviously, they have one game less than Edmonton and Vegas, but I still think that there could be a very good chance that they place first. But I definitely see them top three. If not first, I would definitely see them top three, and. Yeah, I think, but I don't think this is the year that they're gonna win the Stanley Cup. I think if they make the playoffs, I think they're gonna get bounced in round two. I don't think they're gonna get bounced in round. I think they're gonna win round one. But I think some of the players are not so experienced with playoffs and that, and I think personally for me, Anaheim is definitely gonna get bounced in round two. But yeah, that's a pretty solid team. And Kyle, do you have any thoughts about this Anaheim team?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, their goaltending, Dostal is great. His numbers honestly aren't a good reflection of how good he really is. And then, actually, Jakob, just a quick correction, which obviously it's not a huge deal, but Mrazek was the backup going into the season, and obviously he underwent surgery, so his year is done. So Billy Huso has jumped in now as the backup, but he has been better than Mrazek, so you can make the argument he should have been the backup anyways. But yeah, of course you have a lot of top end talent. Their forward core is very solid. I mean, obviously, like Jakob said, Troy Terry's a guy who's been there for a while, and he's hosting 52 points in 51 games, so he's point per game. Same with Leo Carlson, and Chris Kreider is indeed a veteran, Jakob. Don't mistake that. But no, I honestly think that the deadline addition that they made in John Carlson was very good, and that definitely bolstered the right side of their decor. And I agree with Jakob. I don't think there's a chance that this team drops out of the top, three in the Pacific. But Jakob, I'm going to be more decisive than you, and I'm going to just say rather than top three, I'm going to say that they win the Pacific, considering the lead that they've already have, along with having an extra game in hand over Edmonton and Vegas.
Okay.
But yeah, unless you have something else to add, I mean, obviously we know this team is very young. They are inexperienced, like Jakob said, but I do think this team could potentially win a round two. I think come round two, I think this team loses no matter who they play because of that inexperience. But no, I mean they've got a bright future, and I'm expecting this team to be very good for a long time. Over
Hmm.
beyond this season, of course, and I do think that they'll be a consistent playoff contender for years to come.
Yeah, that's exactly what I believe. I believe that, they have, as long as they make the right moves and, keep everybody, I think they have a pretty good chance that, they're gonna keep making the playoffs. But once they get the experience, maybe you'll see them, host that Stanley Cup. We will see.
But yeah, anyways, of course, now we have to move on to a team that this team is also in the playoff race, but obviously they have a very different situation. As this Pittsburgh Penguins roster is has well, I guess they're filled with a lot of veterans, and this is a team that has missed the playoffs the last few years. But the Penguins currently, which mind you, they aren't in by a whole lot, but they do sit in a playoff spot, and obviously this Penguins team has 88 points through 72 games, which that includes 36 wins, 20 losses, and 16 overtime shootout losses. And wow, that's a lot of overtime losses, which to be honest, the overtime losses are kind of a saving grace since the Islanders, as you can see in this wild card spot or second wild card spot, have 5 more wins yet are still a point behind. And I do think the NHL needs to do something about that because there's no way a team should have 16 overtime losses and should be, this far up the standings. But I honestly do think that this Pittsburgh Penguins team has a chance to do more damage than some people may think. And obviously, they have a plus 19 goal differential. They're pretty decent on both home ice and away. And they did, yeah, as soon as they get to a shootout, they're done for because they're 3-10 in the shootout, which that is brutal. But we'll move on to some statistics. But obviously, we know the Eastern Conference playoff race is very tight, and we will talk about that more at the end of the episode. But actually, here, I'll just close that tab so it's a little bit, hopefully, a little less choppy for you guys. But obviously, your leading point scorer and the captain for Team Canada at the Olympics in Sidney Crosby is your top point scorer, and he's got 64 points through 61 games. And obviously, we know how good Crosby is, regardless of age. And yeah, he's amazing still. And obviously, we expect big things, and he provides no matter what. Brian Rust, actually, I'm surprised to see as the second leading scorer, but he's got 59 and 65, and he's proven to be a very reliable forward for them over the last several seasons. And I do expect, him to stay near the top, and I do believe he is Crosby's line mate, although I'm going to be honest, I do not know. But moving on to the third player, we have our first defender, which Eric Carlson, especially Iacob. I don't know if you've noticed, but I looked at his stats I think yesterday, and in his last 10 games, he has 17 points. So he's like basically playing like prime Eric Carlson right now, and obviously he's got 57 points through 67 games, and as long as he's playing at the top of his game, he is elite, and I would consider him, easily a top 25 defender in the world at his best, but he can also dip well below that end. We have seen him win a couple Norrises, and one as recently as the 22-23 season with the Sharks. Then you have Anthony Mantha, who's a very solid depth piece, and actually has played above a depth piece this season because he's been that good. Malkin obviously missed some games due to injury and then got suspended recently, but 52 and 50. Then you have Raquel, who's another solid forward on this, forward line, and he has 39 and 51. Then Tommy Novak is a very solid second, third liner, so middle six forward with 37 and 72. Ben Kindle, excellent depth piece, and obviously a rookie, and he's been great. But then you have Yegor Chinikov, who they got from Columbus, obviously, and I mean, this guy's been unreal since coming over, and I'm expecting big things, and I do believe he's permanently on that second line for Pittsburgh, and based off his play, deservingly so. And then Justin Brazeau, obviously, he started the year hot, but he's still very solid, and his numbers definitely reflect that. And his contract's a bargain, but yeah, Ryan Shea, Chris Letang, I believe those two guys actually do play on a pair together, and they're solid. Connor Dewar, this is a guy that if the Penguins weren't in playoff contention, that 100% on a defensive bottom six role, I would want, a team like the Edmonton Oilers to go and acquire him. But then you can go down the list, and I mean, this team just, it kind of has it all. Like, they don't have, like that one guy that's a true game breaker. Well, I guess you could make the argument that Crosby is that guy, but no, they're a good team. They're filled with a lot of veterans, and I honestly think with the experience that this team has come playoff time, I do think that they could, turn more heads or potentially do more damage than people maybe suspect them being able to do. But we'll go over the goaltending, which obviously early in the season they had Tristan Jarry, but his stats don't show here. But he was pretty good as a Penguin prior to getting traded to the Edmonton Oilers, and I believe he had like a 9-10 or thereabouts with Pittsburgh. But obviously, right now they have Stuart Skinner, who has played 44 games split between Pittsburgh and Edmonton, which he has 21 wins, 14 losses, and nine overtime losses for a 288 goals against average and a 889 save percentage, which obviously he was playing hot in his start Pittsburgh, but I do believe it has died down a little bit, which obviously he was playing at a not a sustainable rate for him, but I still do love you, Stuart Skinner, so we appreciate everything you did. Then Artur Shilovs, the young former Canuck goaltender, and obviously Team Latvia's own in Artur Shilovs, has played 34 games, has 16 wins, 10 losses, 8 overtime losses, and a 299 goals against average with a 891 save percentage. So neither goaltender really has a great save percentage, but this Penguins team is not allowing a lot of shots, hence why the goals against average is so low. And I'd say, if you don't have a goalie that can make a lot of saves, you can limit shots. You're doing great anyways. And then Sergei Murashov, who is one of their young goaltenders down the pipeline, has played 5 games and he has a 256 save percentage and an 897. And yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at the standings again, I do think at year's end this Penguins team will be in the playoffs. I would be more surprised if they weren't, to be honest. And I believe, Jakob, that they will actually finish right in the spot that they are right now. I think they will finish second in the Metropolitan. And I honestly think that this team will win a playoff round, but I do think if they end up having to match up against the Carolina Hurricanes, that it's going to be tough, and I do think they would lose to the Hurricanes. So I think this team will ultimately fall in round 2 of the playoffs.
So kind of like the Anaheim Ducks, you're saying.
Well, pretty much, but it's quite funny how it's opposite. They're an older team with a lot of veterans, and the Ducks are a young team with a lot of rookies. But I just think that they're not going to be able to keep up with the team that Carolina has.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I could definitely see, Carolina being a threat. And Carolina, they've always, been that team that everyone's like, they're so good. Why haven't they make a run? Because, playoffs are very, unpredictable. Anything can happen. So,
Hmm.
we'll see. But I'm definitely ready for the playoffs. I'm definitely ready to see these teams. And yeah, I got nothing else to say.
Yeah, well, let's move on to the obviously the schedule from yesterday, which we only saw 2 games, and yeah, let's just recap both of them, obviously, because we had Detroit play Buffalo and Chicago played the Rangers. So, Jakob, which game do you want to take, or do you care?
Doesn't matter to me.
All right, you're going first. Have fun.
All right, sounds good to me. I was actually gonna do this too. But the Detroit Red Wings play the Red Hot Buffalo Sabres, and unfortunately, the Red Hot Buffalo Sabres did not win this one. They lose 5-2. Despite Detroit being outshot 30-20 by Buffalo, and the Red Wings, and it was 5-2 by the way for Detroit. And Red Wings score three in first, defeat Sabres to gain an Eastern wild card race. And Gibson makes 28 saves for Detroit, and Buffalo has lost three straight for the first time since December. So
Wow.
we'll see how that goes. But we'll definitely talk about, the standings come at the end of the video. But we'll go over the goal scores real quick, which Alex DeBrincat scores on the power play with 4 minutes and 2 seconds into the first to make it 1-0 off an assist from Maurice Sider and Dylan Larkin. Then Lucas Raymond also on the power play. 9 minutes and 11 seconds in makes it 2-0 also from an assist by Maurice Sider. Then we go still in the first period where Marco Casper 6 minutes after that Lucas Raymond goal, Marco Casper with his eighth of the season, assisted by Finney and Van Riemsdyk makes it 3-0. Then and that would be your game winner actually. And then Tage Thompson makes it 3-1 in the second period. The only goal in the second period, off an assist from Krebs and Timmins off a slap shot. And then we go into the third period where Jacob Bernard Doker with his first of this season. I don't know if it's first of the year, but I believe it's his first of the season. Off an assist from Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat, who had 40 assists, makes it 4-1. Then 30-ish seconds after that, not even, maybe a little more. Rasmus Dahlin for his 16th of the season, offenses from Pearson and Byram makes it 4-2. And then the Red Wing, the Sabres decide to pull their goalie, and Patrick Kane shushes the crowd and scores the empty netter to make it 5-2, and that would stand to be the last goal of the game. But we'll go over the 3 stars of the game real quick, which Lucas Raymond was the first star with a goal. Then Maurice Sider with his 2 assist performance was the second star, and John Gibson, who allowed only 2 on the 30 and had himself a 933 save percentage, was the third star of the game. And the Detroit Red Wings had 6 power plays and they only converted 2 of them, while the Buffalo Sabres only had 3 and they converted none. So, the hits were definitely in favor of the Sabres. And yeah, we'll go over the goalie performances real quick. For the Red Wings, I already mentioned, but for the Sabres, it was Alex Lyon, who didn't have the best game. Yeah, allowed 4 on 19 and had himself a 789 save percentage. So not the best performance, but obviously, not every game is going to be perfect, and you're going to have some games where you put up under even an 800. So I think he'll bounce back. I think he's a very solid goalie, and he will definitely bounce back. But Buffalo wins this series 2-1 despite losing that last game, because the first game on October 22nd they won 4-2. Then in overtime in Detroit they won 5-4, and then we go back to Buffalo where Detroit beats them 5-2. And yeah, good performance by the Red Wings, and they needed these 2 points to, as the caption said, to stay control of that in the East, and try to make it back in the playoffs, and or at least a wild card race. And yeah, it's a good win by them. And Buffalo needs to start getting some points. Otherwise, maybe some teams will catch up, or even will overpass them. As Tampa. We'll look at the standings later, but foreshadowing, Tampa currently is only, I believe, like 2 points behind them. And if they win their next game, which they play today, they could very well just pass them. So definitely, this was 2 crucial points by the Red Wings, and glad to see that they were the ones who got it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also shout out, or I guess not shout out, but props to Jacob Bernard Docker, who recorded his first fresh off of his contract extension he signed with the Red Wings, which I did speak about that yesterday, Jacob. So yeah, props to him. And obviously, yeah, great win by the Red Wings. I mean, they did get outshot, but ultimately you look at the score, you don't look at the shots, and obviously the Red Wings win this game. And Gibson was great. This team is was good enough, and they got the 2 points, which is the most important part. So yeah. Oh, and obviously Buffalo lost 3 straight for the first time since December, like Jakob said. So yeah, great win by the Red Wings, and I'm ready to move on.
All right, I'm ready too.
All right, and then in the second and final matchup yesterday, we saw the Chicago Blackhawks visit the New York Rangers, and obviously, the Rangers end up winning this one 6-1, and they did outshoot the Blackhawks, 39-28. And this is I believe, the first game or not. I don't know if this is the first game, but this is one of the first games that the Rangers have played since they have been mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, which I did make a short about that. So obviously, I think I spoke about this too yesterday, but yeah, if you are a Rangers fan or whatever, I have some opinions on that team, and you can go watch that short. But Dylan Garand gets his first NHL win, and the Rangers cruise past Blackhawks, which that is no over exaggeration. They did indeed cruise right past them. And Dylan Garand made 27 saves, and Sikora scores first goal for the New York Rangers. And Jakob, I haven't heard of much from the forward lately, if you know who I'm referring to.
Yeah, Michael Misa.
Yeah, I haven't heard much. I don't know if he's been scoring or what, but I don't think we've been recapping the Sharks games in depth, so we probably are missing something, but maybe we'll hear about him soon, and I guess we'll see.
Well, maybe tomorrow one of us will take the Sharks game, since there was 15 games to recap tomorrow. So maybe one of us will just depend on what the wheel tells us, honestly.
That's true. We're gonna use the wheel. Obviously, we didn't use it today because there was only 2 games, and it would have been like, oh, am I doing the Blackhawks Rangers or the Buffalo Sabres Detroit Red Wings game? So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, no. But we'll do the wheel tomorrow, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Blackhawks would actually record the first goal, which it would be their first and only lead of the night, unfortunately, which that would be Nick Lardis' 8th goal of the season, assisted by Tyler Bertuzzi and Alex Vlasic, and that would come, near the end of the period, 17 minutes and 34 seconds into the game. Then, of course, before the end of the period, JT Miller, with his 15th of the year, would deflect a Connor Sherry shot in, and Braden Schneider had the other assist. But yeah, he would tie the game before the period ended. And then we move on to the second period, which that would see Matthew Robertson score his fifth of the season, and that would come 5 minutes into the period, so 5-5. Ha 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 ha. I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, that would end up being the game winner in this one, and JT Miller would get a second point on the night with an assist on that goal. But Adam Sikora would score his first goal of the season, and is that the first of his career? You know
Yeah,
what,
that was
Jakob?
his first goal of of his entire career.
Oh, well, here, we're going to pull it up for you guys so you can see. But yes, that is his first goal in his second game. And he was on that Team Slovakia or Slovakian international team at the Olympics. I do remember that now. But yeah, congratulations to him on getting his first career goal. And it's more fun to do it in a win, of course. And they did, in fact, win this game. So good for him and good for the Rangers. But Will Cooley got his 17th assist, and then Trocheck would record the second assist on this goal. But then, of course, the Rangers weren't done. They piled on more, and Johnny Brodzinski with his fifth of the season. So him and Robertson both got their fifth of the year, but that would come with just under 4 minutes left in the period, and Will Morgan would get an assist along with Joseph Kemlar, with which I believe that's his first NHL assist, but he has had a point, so that is not his first point or goal. But moving into the third period, which the Rangers would get a power play, and Alexis Lafreniere would record his second, 22nd goal of the year with a tip-in shot off of a Adam Fox wrist, or I guess, I don't know if it was wrist or slap shot, but shot from the point, and JT Miller would get his third point of the night. But then, of course, Johnny Brodzinski would, double down, and he would get his second goal of the night with 4 minutes exactly left on the clock, and Taylor Radish and Dominic Fortescue, which Jakob, I remember speaking about him, and we were talking about how he was going to jump straight into the NHL lineup after signing out of, the NCAA, and that he has. And foreshadowing, he was a 3-star of the night. But your 3 stars tonight, obviously, your first star is Dylan Garand for the New York Rangers, which he was the goalie. And this is his first win, and it's a good one, with which he made, 27 saves, allowed 1 on 28, and had himself a 964 save percentage. Then Adam Sikora with his first NHL goal would be your second star, and Dominic Fortescue with his first NHL assist would be your third star. And I'm gonna fact check this. Was this was his first point, but was it his first game? It was also his NHL debut, so congrats to him. And yeah, this kid honestly looks like he's gonna be pretty good for the Rangers, and we'll see. But yeah, props to him. And obviously the power plays. Hawks went 0 for 3. Rangers went 1 for 3, so they had a 33%. And yeah, Rangers kind of dominated all fashions of the game. Like the Blackhawks had a lot of giveaways, didn't get a lot of takeaways. If you don't have the puck, you can't score. And obviously the Blackhawks did not have the puck a lot. But we'll go over actually the Blackhawks goaltending stats real quick, which if I can get there. Yes. All right, so it was Arvid Soderblom yesterday, which of course I do remember saying that, and he allowed 6 goals on 39 and had himself an 846 save percentage. And yeah, it was just not a great game all around for the Hawks. But moving on to your season series, the Rangers tied the season series at 1, and that is where it will stand because these two teams only play once, like we said before. The Western and Eastern Conference teams will only have one matchup, and each will get to host one game. Where obviously with divisional and, conference matchups, you get more. But the Blackhawks would win the first game on December 10th, 3-0, and then the Rangers would get sweet revenge just yesterday, March 27th, and they would win 6-1. And there you have it, folks. The Rangers get a win, and yeah, I mean, obviously the points don't matter for them, but it's still good to see this team get the 2 points. And yeah, Jakob, you have anything else to add to this one?
Just props to, everybody, the 3 stars, because all of them, did good. And I believe all 3 of them are rookies too. So it's good to see that the rookies are,
Mm-hmm.
coming in there, and maybe not Garand. He doesn't look like much of a rookie, but
Oh, this was his
yeah.
first NHL win, Jakob, so.
Oh, congrats to them, congrats to all 3 of them. But yeah, I'm ready to move on if you're ready.
All right, which we will get onto our schedule for, today, or I guess today, because obviously a couple games have already started, but we have a lot of games that are yet to start. And I will refresh the tab quickly before we begin this. But Jakob, I will say the game and the time, and Jakob, of course, will fill in with saying the starting goaltenders. Are you ready to go?
Let's go.
All right, the Ottawa Senators will visit the Tampa Bay Lightning, And that game will come at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is a crucial matchup for the Senators in that Eastern Conference playoff race.
So that will be at 12 p.m. Central Time. As I think Kyle forgot that I'm now in Central Time and not in Eastern Time anymore. But for those Eastern Time, yeah, it will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But that will be James Reimer versus Andrei Vasilevsky.
I did forget you're not in Eastern Time. That is just weird to me now. Okay, I'll try to remember to say Central, but obviously, I mean, I think Iacob has a few people who might be watching from Eastern Time. So if I do say Eastern Time from, you know, time to time, then haha, time to time. Yeah, I don't think the people will
I know.
complain. But in our next matchup, we see the Florida Panthers face off against the New York Islanders, which this is a crucial game for the Islanders, not so much the Panthers, but this game will be at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 12 p.m. Central Time, and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. There we go.
Dang, now we actually have to do all three of them. But we will see Daniil Tarasov instead of Sergei Rabovsky versus Ilya Sorokin. And I'm expecting a good game out of Ilya Sorokin tonight, but we will see how that goes.
Please, Sorokin, I need you for my fantasy. All right. But then we have one game at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Add an hour for Eastern Time. I'm not going to say it every time. But we will see the Anaheim Ducks face off against the Edmonton Oilers, and this is a crucial game for both teams.
And we will see Lukas Dostal, but it is unconfirmed, versus an unconfirmed Connor Ingram. And based on how it looks, I don't, Connor Ingram and Tristan Joy are now slowly starting to split the schedule again. So we will see how that goes.
Yeah, well, we'll see, but I'm not going to get my hopes up on either side, obviously. But in our next matchup, which obviously we have a few at this time frame, so I will say the time for the first match and the last match. But the first match at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Central Time, and I guess I'll say it, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we will see the San Jose Sharks face off against the Columbus Blue Jackets.
That would be unconfirmed Alex Nedeljkovic versus an unconfirmed Jet Greaves.
Then our second matchup at this time frame, we see the Minnesota Wild go visit the Boston Bruins.
And that will be Philip Gustafson, though it is unconfirmed, versus an unconfirmed Jeremy Swayman.
Then for our third matchup at this time frame, we have the Dallas Stars who will visit the Pittsburgh Penguins. And for the Penguins, this is a crucial game.
An unconfirmed Jake Ottinger versus an unconfirmed Arthur Shelovs.
Then, of course, for our final game at 3 o'clock Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Central Time, and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the New Jersey Devils who will face off against the Carolina Hurricanes.
In that game, we will see Jacob Markstrom, though it is unconfirmed, versus an unconfirmed Brennan Bussey.
That is the one thing about doing these episodes this early is almost all of the goaltenders are unconfirmed. But yeah, in our next matchup, which will be at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time and 4:30 p.m. Central Time, add an hour for Eastern Time, we have the Seattle Kraken facing off against the Buffalo Sabres.
That'll be Joey Decord versus Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, though both goalies are unconfirmed.
I feel like we're going to hear that one a lot, and we already have, but we will hear it again. But in this matchup, we see the Winnipeg Jets visit the Colorado Avalanche, and this will be at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 6 p.m. Central Time.
And we will see an unconfirmed Connor Hellebuyck versus an unconfirmed Scott Wedgwood.
Then we have a matchup where the goaltenders are actually confirmed, and we will see the Toronto Maple Leafs face off against the St. Louis Blues.
And that would be a confirmed Joseph Waugh versus a confirmed Jordan Binnington.
All right, and then our last matchup at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, we see the Montreal Canadiens visit the Nashville Predators, and this matchup's kind of a classic, and I will refresh the page, which I think we had to confirm here. So, oh no, it's already confirmed. Never mind. But yeah, I could go for it.
It will be likely to be Jacob Fowler versus what is likely to be UC Saros.
We shall see, I guess. But then our next matchup at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 7 p.m. Central Time, we have the Philadelphia Flyers who will face off against the Detroit Red Wings.
We will see a confirmed Dan Vladar against an unconfirmed John Gibson.
In our next matchup, we have the Utah Mammoth facing off against the LA Kings, and that will be 7 p.m. Mountain Time and 8 p.m. Central Time.
We will see an unconfirmed Carol Vejmelka, against an unconfirmed Darcy Kemper.
All right, then we have two more matchups, which this one will be at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central Time. Wow, you see what I did, Jakob? I switched it up on you.
Yep. I love it. I love it.
And then we have the Vancouver Canucks facing off against the Calgary Flames. I don't know if I already said that.
We will see Nikita Talopilo versus Dustin Wolf, and both goalies are confirmed.
And then in our last matchup, we have the Washington Capitals who will visit the Vegas Golden Knights, and that will be 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time and 9:30 p.m. Central Time.
We will see an unconfirmed Logan Thompson versus a confirmed Aiden Hill.
Did you just say a confirmed Aiden Hill?
All right, unconfirmed Aiden Hill. I'm so sorry. I'm tired. Okay.
We see two Team Canada goaltenders, or two potential Team Canada goaltenders, depending on how you look at it. But there you have it, folks. That's your schedule. And Jakob, we have every game to pick from apart from these first two. So let's make these picks, and I'll leave it on this page so I can scroll down through the schedule, or you can pull it up on your phone or whatever.
That's fine by me. And
But I'll let you go first since you haven't been around for a few episodes. So take it away.
I'm going to take. Oh, I need to see the schedule. Give me the schedule. Let me see the schedule real quick.
Here I'll pull it up. Which I mean,
Yeah,
you guys
pull
will
up.
get what is going where? What is this? Oh, okay, I got it. Hang on, give me do 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 do. Okay, yeah, you can see the unfortunately the scores for the first couple games will be spoiled, but oh well. But yeah, here
Yeah.
Jakob, I'll scroll down real quick and make your beautiful pick. I'll scroll back up real slow for you.
I will take the Nashville Predators to beat the Montreal Canadiens,
Okay.
and I'm going to take the Detroit Red Wings to beat the Philadelphia Flyers for my second pick.
Okay.
And then for my player picks, I'm going to take a Robert Thomas goal for the St. Louis Blues, and I'm going to take a Tage Thompson goal for the Buffalo Sabres.
All right. And then for my picks, I will take the Blue Jackets to beat the Sharks for my first team pick. And then I am going to take, you know what? I'm going to take the Vancouver Canucks to beat the Calgary Flames. And
Okay.
and then for my player picks now, I will take a Matt Boldy goal for the Minnesota Wild. And I will take, you know what? I'm going to take a Mark Scheifele goal for the Jets.
All right, so there
So
you have it, folks. Just to recap, I took the Red Wings to beat the Flyers and the Canadian Predators
Predators
to
to
beat the
beat
Canadians,
Canadians.
excuse me. And then I said a Tage Thompson goal for the Sabres and a Robert Thomas goal for the St. Louis Blues. And Kyle will recap his picks.
Yes, which I chose the Blue Jackets to beat the Sharks, and of course, I chose the Canucks to beat the Flames. And then for my player picks, I chose a Matt Boldy goal for the Wild, and then I also chose
Mark
a
Scheifele goal for the
Mark
Jets.
Scheifele goal for the Jets. Thank you, Jakob. But
You're
yes,
welcome.
obviously we'll move on and we'll do our quick standings review. And honestly, this episode has gone longer than I thought it would, considering we didn't even have any news. So I think we'll save the big conversations for the next episode, Jakob. But let's do our quick standings review. And do you want me to do the East, or do you want to do the East and then I do the West, or whatever?
Yeah, but I'll do the East. But we'll see. We see the Buffalo Sabres, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Montreal Canadiens be, the top three in the Atlantic, and it's very tight up there. You see Buffalo, just have 2 points under with actually, Tampa could actually overpass them as Tampa has 2 games in hand over Buffalo. Same with Montreal, but yeah, it's looking like those three. For me, I think those three will be the top three. Then we go over to the Metro, which we see the Carolina Hurricanes 96, Pittsburgh with 88, and then Columbus with 87. And I honestly think that the top two. I think the Islanders will actually be the third team up there. I think they're gonna overpass the Columbus Blue Jackets. But then we see the wild card, which Boston and New York have that too. But Ottawa and Detroit, have a game in hand over the New York Islanders, who are sitting just a point above them, and they both have 86 points. Then we have Philadelphia, who has 82, Washington, who has 81, and then New Jersey 76, and Toronto 67. Sorry, Toronto 75. My bad. I don't know. Kyle scrolled too fast, so I said 67. But you see Florida at 73 and New York at already been eliminated, as there's no way that if mathematically speaking they were to win every game, but that is very unlikely. There's 9 games remaining and they would have 18 points. They'd be at 85 points, and the top two
Mm,
are already at 87, so they are mathematically eliminated. And I think those bottom three teams, Toronto, Florida, and New York, will be the two teams. I could see Toronto though. Uh, I don't know. I actually don't think Toronto could because I think they have two
Yeah.
less games, so I don't think that'll happen. But yeah, definitely, it's a tight Eastern Conference, and yeah, don't be surprised if we do one a week from today and there's surprises to see. But yeah, definitely, that Eastern Conference race is tight.
Yeah, I honestly think a sleeper pick could be the Flyers. They could definitely climb in the coming days and weeks, but we'll see. And I'll move on to the West real quick, which obviously we have the Colorado Avalanche headlining the entire way for the league and the West, and I guess their own division too, which obviously they have already clinched. And yeah, I expect them to win the President's Trophy. Enough said. Then we have the Dallas Stars, who are second and very likely could end up second in the league as well. So yeah, they're excellent. And then the Minnesota Wild, who are a top team in the league as well, will have to face off against likely Dallas in the first round. And the fact that one of the two best teams in the league are guaranteed to be out in the first round is absurd, but it is what it is. But then moving on to the Pacific, which is by far the worst division in the league, a lot of Eastern Conference teams would actually be leading this division right now. But obviously, we have the Ducks who are first, and that's enough said. We already spoke about them earlier in the episode. The Edmonton Oilers are second, and I mean, honestly, I expected them to have a better year, but obviously, come playoff time, I think this team can get it done, and we'll see. But yeah, then we have Vegas. Obviously, this is another team that's built for the playoffs, and they could potentially surprise some people by going on a run. But obviously, the playoffs are unpredictable, and that's why we see a lot of upsets. But then Utah holds the first wildcard spot, while the Nashville Predators hold the second wildcard spot. Which both of these teams, obviously, the Mammoth have a little bit of a cushion, but the Predators have a 1 point lead over the LA Kings, and then we see Seattle at 74, Winnipeg down at 72, which they are not out considering they're only 5 points back. Then the Sharks, I still wouldn't count them out, especially since they have quite a few games in hand and they've played the least amount of games in the league. The Blues are still technically not out, but I think if you're below this 7th through 10th range, which obviously the Canucks are mathematically out, but I do think the Blackhawks and Flames are also out of the race. But a couple sleeper teams to watch. I think the Jets, if they go on a bit of a run here down the stretch, could potentially climb into a spot. The Kraken, I would not count them out, especially with Superman Bobby McMahon there. And then, of course, the Kings after adding Panarin, I still wouldn't count them out either. But there you have it, folks. That is our roster, or I guess standings review. And yeah, you got anything else to add, Jakob, before we close this segment out?
No, I've said all that. I really hope the Edmonton Oilers can just make the playoffs. That's my only answer and prayer.
Well, let's beat the Ducks tonight and make it happen. But
We'll
we'll
see,
move
buddy.
on. And obviously, we have our Spotify. And if you guys haven't already listened to our Spotify, go check it out. It's the same handle, IKNHL Daily Talk. And I believe Jakob is recording this on Spotify too. So if you ever need, just something to listen to while you're driving, we got you guys. And I
Definitely. And I can vouch for anyone speaking that when I drive, I listen to the podcast and I swear it makes the road trip 20 times faster because some of these episodes are long. So you listen to like 7 episodes, 6 or 7 episodes. No, I'm not trying to make that joke because mathematically speaking, an episode is about 40 to 50 minutes, give or take. There's a few that, it could be an hour,
mm-hmm.
there could be stuff, but mathematically speaking, actually, like there could be some that you listen to 6 episodes on a 6 hour road trip and you could already get to your destination and be like, wait, I've just been listening to this because it makes the road faster. And I do that when I'm on my way to school, or I actually did it while I was on my way to Panama, and oh, it made it much faster to drive listening to it. Plus, it also calms the mind down because maybe you're having a stressful day and you just want to relax. You turn on our podcast and we calm you guys down, especially minus the part where we start screaming into the cameras and all that. We apologize for that. If there's some days when you just sit down and actually, truth be told, Kyle, I almost fell asleep listening to one of our podcasts because it was so calming my mind, bro. Like, I was on the way to school one day and I had like 15 minutes left in the drive and I had like a few minutes left in my podcast and I started closing my eyes, bro. I was just sitting back in my chair on cruise control driving. My eyes were like starting to shut because I was so just listening to this podcast and I was really enjoying it. It really calmed my mind. So, yeah, definitely, if you guys want to, take a listen, hopefully it doesn't make you guys fall asleep. We do apologize if it does. I'm sorry. I don't mean to, but yeah, apparently I got told by a lot of people that my voice makes people go to sleep. So,
Yeah,
don't ask me
that's
why,
interesting.
but don't ask me why, but apparently according to some people, I got told that my voice calms them down and makes them go to sleep. So, if my voice calms you down and goes you to sleep, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Please don't crash your car because you're driving and fall asleep.
Yeah, also that too. Please don't do that because we do not want to get a lawsuit because people were listening to our podcast and then they fell asleep.
Well, there we go, Jacob. We said it, so now we can't get now we can't get sued for it. So, yeah,
That is
this
true. That
that
is
is at
true.
your own discretion. So, viewer discretion is advised.
I like how we said this
Anyways,
in the episode.
but anyways, then we have our Instagram, which go check it out too. It's also IK NHL Daily Talk, and obviously, we record all of our, or I guess we post all of our shorts and whatnot as well that we post on our YouTube on here. So go check those out. And of course, since we want to wrap this video up, go check out our YouTube channel. Wait, go check it. You're already here if you're watching this. Well, if you did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe, mention us to all your friends because we're trying to grow this and I mean, we're just having fun with it, but if this goes somewhere, that'd be great.
Definitely, no, definitely. We do appreciate all the support.
But yeah, on that note, Jakob, I will close this final tab, and the people can, look at the same screen that opened the episode. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we'll save the conversation for another episode because we're already 46 minutes in, considering we had no news. That is a long time, as I'm sure
Yeah,
you can agree.
that is definitely a long time. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, thank you all for watching. Of course, Jakob and I will be back again tomorrow, which you'll be here, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I will definitely make it. I promise.
All right, but yeah, no, we'll wrap it up now. So, oh hi. Oh, there was someone at my door. That's okay. Anyways, thank you all for watching. You know, if you're here, comment the word. Hmm. Well, what's a good word, Jakob?
Comment the word tonight.
Yes, comment that, and yeah, I'm gonna let you guys get out of here. Get out of here. We're getting out of here. Peace out, y'all. We'll see you guys
Peace,
all next time.
peace out, everybody. Hope everyone has a good day.
Yes. Bye bye now.